Today in the episode, bold drone operation in Russia, key facilities on fire. Ukrainian drone strikes destroy over $245 million in advanced missile systems. Trump praised Ukrainian achievements. Foreign nationals tricked and forced to fight for Russia. On the night of September 24th, several Russian regions came under attack. Explosions were also heard in occupied Crimea. A Russian Ministry of Defense claims that 70 drones were shot down. But what about the consequences? What happened with the drones that weren't shot down? Drones hit the Gazprom plant in Russia's Bashkortostan for the second time in a week. On Wednesday, September 24th, drones once again targeted the Gazprom Neftekhim Salavat plant in the Russian Republic of Bashkortostan. The facility is located approximately 1,400 kilometers from the Ukraine's border. This petrochemical company operates one of Russia's largest oil refining and petrochemical complexes. It carries out a full cycle of hydrocarbon processing and produces 150 types of products. The plant was first struck on September 18th by long-range drones operated by the Security Service of Ukraine. According to sources, the UAVs hit the heart of the plant, the ELO UAVT-4 unit. This installation is responsible for removing water and salts from crude oil and converting it into gasoline, diesel, kerosene, and fuel oil, according to the Rus Profile Service. In 2024, the company earned 303 billion rubles and made a profit of 4.4 billion. Trouble also occurred at Transneft oil pipeline stations in the Volgograd region. Fires broke out that were visible from space, with the burning captured in satellite images. The region's governor, Andrei Bocharov, claimed that on the night of September 24th, Russian air defense allegedly repelled a drone attack on fuel and energy infrastructure. However, there are reports circulating online that the Zenzavodka oil pumping station is on fire. In addition, another Russian oil station, Kuzmichi 1, also caught fire on September 24th. As a result of the wave of Ukrainian drone attacks, Russia's oil refining volume has dropped below 5 million barrels per day, the lowest level since April 2022. The Ukrainian drone strikes on Russian refineries have brought Russian fuel exports close to their lowest level since 2020, impacting one of the Kremlin's main sources of income. More and more Russian regions, including the occupied territories of Ukraine, are facing a gasoline shortage. This was also noted by Trump during his conversation with Zelensky and in his comments to the press.
Well, the biggest progress is that the Russian economy is terrible right now. As you know, it's crashing. And that, frankly, Ukraine is doing a very good job of stopping this very large army. It's pretty amazing. You know, this is a war that should have ended in 3 days, 4 days. People said it was going to be very quick, and you got to hand it to the Ukrainian soldiers and everybody involved. It's still going on, and that's not a good thing for Russia.
Explosions were also heard in the center of Taganrog. Reports indicate that traffic has been blocked due to debris on the ground. According to local public channels, the airport was hit. Around midnight, the Kursk region also came under drone attack. The governor of the Kursk region, Oleksandr Zaslavets, acknowledged damage to infrastructure and energy facilities, with most consumers in towns near Kursk left without electricity. Locals claimed that it was likely a substation that caught fire. They also corrected Zaslavets. It wasn't a small fire, but large-scale blazes. The Ukrainian armed forces also attacked Volgograd in the Kursk region, specifically a commercial enterprise. Local sources claim it was the Frez plant. Additionally, 6 people were reported injured in the city. In a series of high-precision drone strikes, the Ukrainian armed forces have also inflicted massive losses on Russia's high-value military assets, targeting key installations and elite units. The estimated cost of the destroyed equipment alone exceeds near $245 million. The Ukrainian armed forces destroyed vehicles belonging to the Iskander missile system in a strike on the Malkino training ground in Russia's Krasnodar Krai. The strike was carried out using 14 attack UAVs. As a result of the attack, several Iskander short-range ballistic missile systems were destroyed, and a Pantsir S-1 air defense system was damaged. Warehouses and other military vehicles were also affected. The Malkino training ground is known as one of the key Russian bases used by elite units of the Russian army. On one of the active front lines, operators of the Unmanned Systems Forces detected and struck 2 enemy Tor M2 surface-to-air missile systems. As a result of the attack, 1 unit was destroyed, and the other was seriously damaged. The Tor M2 is a short-range air defense system used by the enemy as part of a layered air defense network to protect troops and critical assets from Ukrainian aircraft, missiles, and drones, as well as to defend medium and long-range air defense systems like the S-300 and S-400. Its interception range for aerial targets is up to 15 kilometers. The cost of a new Tor M2 unit is approximately $25 million. The operators carried out the strike using an innovative solution, the details of which remain undisclosed. As these operations continue, the strategic pressure on Russia's war effort intensifies, impacting both military readiness and civilian life. The Kremlin's grip is loosening, and Ukraine's fight for sovereignty is gaining unstoppable momentum.
Kenyans in Russia's war against Ukraine. In Nairobi, authorities announced the launch of an investigation into the trafficking of Kenyan citizens into slavery in the Russian Federation. Kenyan officials report that they are clarifying the circumstances of the case with Russian authorities through their embassy in Moscow, as well as maintaining contact with Ukraine's Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
We are keenly following information on 3 or 4 Kenyans allegedly trafficked to Russia and currently held as prisoners of war by Ukraine. We shall provide additional information, Korir Sing'oei, Principal Secretary of Foreign Affairs of Kenya, cited by Business Insider.
Last week, on the Volchansk direction, soldiers of the 57th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine captured a Russian army mercenary from Kenya. He turned out to be 36-year-old athlete Evans Kibet. The prisoner said that he and 3 other Kenyans arrived in St. Petersburg at the invitation of a Russian travel agent.
I didn't go to Russia for military service. I went there as a tourist to see different beautiful places. I spent 2 weeks there. The day before I was supposed to return to Kenya, the guy who hosted me in Russia asked me, "Evans, how do you like Russia?" I said it's good. He asked if I would like to stay here. I said yes. But the problem is that my visa expired. He said, "No, I can do something for you." I asked what. He said he had a job for me. I asked what kind of job, but he didn't tell me. In the evening, he came with documents in Russian and said these are for the job he wants me to do.
The documents that Evans signed turned out to be a contract with the Russian Ministry of Defense. Afterward, his phone and passport were confiscated. A few days later, the athlete was taken to a military camp, and after a week of basic training, he was sent to the front line.
I ended up in a place where I don't want to be. I am not an enemy of Ukraine. I ended up in a situation from which I couldn't escape. They threw me into the forest. That's when I escaped. I didn't go to fight. They abandoned me, and I escaped, took off their military uniform. I came out to Ukrainian forces after 2 nights of escape. If I had run to the Russians, they would have killed me. They had told me earlier, when I decided I didn't want this job, that I either go fight or they kill me. I don't want to go to Russia. I'll die there. I have a daughter who wants to see me.
The illegal recruitment by Russia of foreign citizens into the Russian army is a common practice. The Times of India reports that 30-year-old Indian Rakesh Kumar arrived in St. Petersburg to study. However, a few days later, he was deceived into being mobilized into the Russian army. The man's relatives claim his passport was forcibly taken, work emails deleted, and he was sent for military training in Donbass. Rakesh last contacted them from an unknown Russian number. Further communication with him was cut off. According to the Times of India, in recent months, at least 20 Indian citizens have been drawn into Russia's war against Ukraine under the guise of study or work.
Earlier, it became known about the mass recruitment of women from South Africa for work in the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. In reality, they were forced to work on the production of military drones used by Russia to attack Ukrainian cities. Such stories demonstrate the true nature of Moscow's policy toward Africa. Under the rhetoric of fighting colonialism, Russia is actually reproducing colonial practices, using Africans as cheap labor and cannon fodder for its aggressive war against Ukraine. Center for Countering Disinformation at the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine on Telegram.
In 2025, the Russian Federation continues to actively recruit foreigners to participate in the war against Ukraine. Among those recruited are hundreds of citizens from Africa, the Middle East, and other regions of the world, reports the Coordination Headquarters for the Treatment of Prisoners of War. I Want to Live. African countries lead the way. This year, Moscow recruited 507 Africans, including from Ghana, Cameroon, Egypt, as well as Mali, Kenya, and Togo. Reported by Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.
Whether at press conferences or direct meetings in UNGA in New York City or at Fox News' Special Report studio, it really was a briefing on the war in Ukraine given by President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky to the world leaders and prominent media. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky highlighted 3 globally important things. First, Zelensky told the UN Security Council that China could pressure Russia to end the war in Ukraine, and that he believes Donald Trump can change Xi Jinping's stance on Russia's war. Second, Russia is launching long-range drones into the airspace of NATO countries to probe the military alliance's air defenses and search for weak points. And third, after Donald Trump spent an hour meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the UN General Assembly, the U.S. president's comments surprised many.
After getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine/Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of the European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form. With time, patience, and the financial support of Europe, and, in particular, NATO, the original borders from where this war started is very much an option. Donald Trump, President of the United States.
The post appears to mark a stark reversal in his administration's policy and Trump's past comments towards Ukraine's occupied territories. As it might come as a great surprise to some, it was a little bit of surprise for Zelensky.
Are you surprised to hear that?
A little bit. A little bit. I mean, this, I'm sure in my people, in my army, and I'm sure in strengthening of in support of the United States. But President Trump was more positive in it, and he showed that he wants to support Ukraine to the very end. So we understand now that we are ready to finish this war as quick as possible. And he wants, and I want, and our people want. But he understands that Putin doesn't want, and he understands that he is not winning.
When asked by reporters about progress since his last meeting with Zelensky, Trump pointed to the state of Russia's economy and Ukraine's resilience. Please subscribe so as to stay tuned to what is happening in the world, shown from Ukrainian perspective. Goodbye.